You feel it suddenly. Your fingers go numb, a strange sensation, like pins and needles, or like your hand is not fully yours. You shake it, move it, and it goes away. So you ignore it, because it feels small, temporary, not serious. But here's the truth. Your body doesn't create sensations without a reason, especially not repeated ones. And numbness is not just a random feeling. It's a signal that something is not working properly. Not necessarily something dangerous, but something important. And the biggest mistake people make is this. They wait for it to get worse. But the body doesn't start with strong symptoms. It starts quietly. And numbness is often one of those quiet beginnings. To understand numbness, you need to understand one thing. It's not just about your fingers. It's about communication between your brain, your nerves, and your blood flow. When everything works correctly, signals move freely. You feel normally. But when something interferes, that signal changes. It becomes weaker, distorted, or blocked. And that's what you feel as numbness. Another important detail. Numbness can come from different systems: nerves, blood vessels, muscles, and even posture. And this is why it's confusing, because the same symptom can have different causes. Sometimes it's harmless, like pressure on a nerve. Sometimes it's a sign of something deeper, and the difference is not always obvious. That's why most people ignore it, because it doesn't look serious. One of the most common causes is something simple, but underestimated. Pressure on nerves, especially in the neck, shoulders, and wrists. Think about your daily position: sitting, looking at your phone, working on a computer. Your posture is forward, your neck is tense, your shoulders are tight, and this creates compression. Nerves get slightly pressed, signals get disrupted, and you feel numbness. Another important detail: this doesn't happen instantly. It builds over time, from repetition, from habit, from posture. And because it develops slowly, you don't connect it. You just feel symptoms without understanding the cause, and that's why it keeps coming back. Now the most important part: patterns. Because one episode of numbness may mean nothing, but repeated patterns always mean something. The first pattern is frequency. If numbness happens often, even briefly, it matters. Not because of intensity, but because of repetition. The second pattern is timing. Does it happen at night? When you wake up? After certain positions? After stress? Patterns show cause. The third pattern is combination. Numbness together with weakness, loss of grip, clumsiness, dropping objects. This changes everything, because now it's not just sensation, it's function. And when function is affected, the nervous system is involved more deeply. Another important detail: symmetry. If it happens in one hand only, it may be local. If it happens in both, it may be systemic. And here is the key point. The body doesn't repeat symptoms for no reason. Repetition is information, and ignoring that information is the biggest risk. When numbness appears, most people do one of two things. They ignore it, or they panic, and both are mistakes. Ignoring means you lose information. Panicking creates more tension, and tension makes symptoms worse. So the first step is different. Observe, not react. Ask yourself, when did it start? What were you doing? How long did it last? Did it repeat? Because these details matter. They help you understand the pattern, and pattern sagent cause. Another important step: change position. Move your hand, stretch your neck, relax your shoulders. If numbness improves quickly, it may be mechanical. If it doesn't, it may be deeper. But here's the key. Don't jump to conclusions from one moment. Look at repetition, because one episode is noise. Repeated episodes are data. Now we need to talk about something more serious, because sometimes numbness is not just a symptom, it's a warning, especially when it appears suddenly, without reason, without position. without pressure, just out of nowhere. Another important sign: numbness that spreads from fingers to hand to arm, or appears together with weakness, speech difficulty, loss of coordination, even if it lasts seconds, even if it disappears. This is not something to ignore, because this is not local. This involves the brain. And when the brain is involved, time matters. Another detail people miss: short symptoms feel safe because they pass. But sometimes, short symptoms are warnings, temporary disruptions, signals that something is unstable. And this is where most people make a mistake. They wait for it to become strong. But the body doesn't start strong. It starts subtle. And subtle signals are the most important, because they come early, when you still have control. Now let's go deeper, because numbness is not always about nerves. Sometimes it's about blood flow. Your fingers are at the edge of circulation, the furthest points from your heart. And that means one thing: they are the first to feel changes. When circulation is perfect, you feel nothing unusual. But when blood flow becomes unstable, even slightly, your fingers react. You may feel numbness, coldness, tingling, or a strange empty sensation. Another important detail: this doesn't always mean blockage. It can be regulation. Your vessels tighten and relax constantly. But when this system becomes unstable, blood flow fluctuates, and this creates symptoms. For example, cold hands even in normal temperature, fingers turning pale or slightly bluish, numbness that appears when you are not moving and disappears when you move your hand. This is not random. This is circulation responding to instability. Another hidden factor: stress. When you are under stress, your body prioritizes vital organs and reduces blood flow to extremities, fingers, toes, hands, and this creates numbness, not because something is blocked, but because something is being redirected. And over time, this pattern repeats and becomes your normal. Now let's talk about what actually helps. Not instantly, but effectively. First, posture. Your daily position matters more than you think. If your neck is forward, if your shoulders are tense, if your wrists are bent for hours, you create pressure. And pressure creates symptoms. So small adjustments matter. Head position, shoulders relaxed, arms supported. Second, movement, not intense, but regular. Because movement improves circulation, activates nerves, restores balance. Even simple things: stretching, walking, changing position often. These signals tell your body everything is working. Third, breathing. Most people underestimate this, but shallow breathing creates tension, and tension affects nerves and circulation. So slow breathing helps release that. Another important point: hydration. Water supports circulation, and circulation supports nerve function. Simple, but often ignored. And finally, consistency. Not doing everything perfectly, but doing small things regularly, because the body responds to repetition, not to one-time effort. Most people think numbness is just a small inconvenience, something temporary, something harmless. But the real cost is not the sensation itself, it's what it represents. Because numbness means something is not working correctly. Communication is disrupted. Signals are not moving as they should. And when that happens repeatedly, the system adapts. But adaptation is not a solution. It's compensation. Your body finds ways to function, even when something is off. But over time, this reduces efficiency. Movements become less precise. Grip becomes weaker. Coordination changes. And this happens slowly. So slowly, you don't notice the decline. Until one day, something feels clearly different. And by then, the process has been developing for a long time. Even when people know what to do, they don't change. Not because they can't, but because symptoms feel small, not urgent, not serious enough. So they delay. They say, "I'll fix it later. It's not that bad." And this is the trap, because the body doesn't wait for urgency. It gives signals early, quietly, repeatedly. And if those signals are ignored, they don't disappear. They evolve. Another problem is inconsistency. People try something for a few days, then stop, then try something else, without giving the system time to adapt. But the body needs repetition, stability, time. Another important detail: people focus on symptoms, not causes. They want numbness to disappear, but they don't change what creates it. And without that, the symptom returns again and again. One of the biggest problems with numbness is this: it feels too small, too temporary, too easy to ignore. And that's exactly why it becomes dangerous. Because your brain reacts to intensity, not to subtlety. If something hurts badly, you act. If something is extreme, you respond. But numbness doesn't do that. It whispers, it appears, disappears, returns, and this creates a false sense of safety. If it was serious, it wouldn't go away. But sometimes, the fact that it goes away is part of the problem, because it hides the cause. Another important detail: the body rarely starts with strong symptoms. It starts with small ones, because small changes come first, and those are the ones you can act on. There is always a moment before something becomes serious, when you still have control. Not a big moment, not dramatic, just a signal, a small change, a sensation that feels different, and numbness is often that moment. The early signal, the first sign, the one that comes before bigger problems. But most people miss it, because they are waiting for something stronger, something obvious, something that forces them to act. But by the time something forces you, you are no longer in control. You are reacting. And that is the difference between early awareness and late response. There is always a moment when everything starts to make sense. You remember that numbness, that strange feeling in your fingers, that moment you ignored, and you realize it was never random. It was a signal, a small one, quiet, easy to dismiss, but real. And the hardest part is this: at the time, it didn't feel important. It didn't stop you. It didn't force you to act. So you moved on. But now you see it differently, because now you understand. The body speaks early, not loudly, but clearly, if you know how to listen. Your body is not working against you. It never was. It was trying to adapt, trying to protect, trying to keep everything functioning, even when something wasn't right. Numbness was not the problem. It was the message, a sign that something needed attention, a signal that the system was under stress. And here's the key point: the body always tries to keep balance. But when balance is challenged, it shows it, not with big symptoms at first, but with small ones. And those small ones matter the most, because they come early, when change is still simple. You don't need to wait for something serious. You don't need stronger symptoms. You don't need fear to act. The signal is already there, in the small things, in the moments you ignore, in the sensations you explain away. And the truth is simple: your body is already telling you what's happening. The only question is, will you listen in time? Because sometimes, the difference between a small symptom and a big problem is not time, it's attention.